Hello. We are back for chapter 4 of Salt in the Wind because chapter 3 was so short. I need more. So let's get stuck in. I woke to the feeling of exposure. The air was sharp against my skin, the last embers of the fire waving goodbye at me with a flicker. My body protested as I shifted, muscles stiff from a night of uneasy sleep. As I sat up, I noticed my door was open. Not cracked, wide open. The sight of it confused me. The last thing I remembered was Sam closing it for the night, sealing me in with the fire and the wind howling beyond the cabin walls. But now it yawned open, an invitation or a violation. I couldn't tell which. Then I saw the clothes, neatly folded at the foot of my bed. A fresh outfit waited for me. A sweater, thick pants, even socks, and a pair of boots set just beside the blankets. Thoughtful, except for one thing: the colour. Deep, vivid red. My thought was how it would bleed against the white of the snow. A flare, a beacon, if I dared step outside in my condition. My pulse ticked up as I ran my fingers over the fabric. The knit soft and delicate. These were homemade. I swallowed against the dryness in my throat, glancing towards the door again. The cabin was silent, but my thoughts overwhelmed it. There was nothing wrong with taking what was given to me. That's what I told myself as I pulled the sweater over my head, its weight settling on my shoulders. Sam had saved me. He's given me shelter, food, care for my leg, and clothing. I owed him at least a little trust, didn't I? Still, that nagging sensation remained, like a thread snagged in my brain. I pulled the boots on, noticing one was recently restitched together and bigger. This one must have been purposely made bigger for my leg. My bandages didn't unravel and no pain was felt as my foot settled into the boot. So thoughtful, so careful. I hobbled to the hallway and looked around at the scene before me. The cabin was dim, the fire in the main room roaring with a vengeance. A heavy stillness hung in the air, broken only by the occasional creak of wood and the soft pop of embers. The kitchen sat just beyond the living area. A single plate resting on the counter, crumbs scattered beside it. Someone had been up before me. Carrie, probably. I turned my head slightly, glancing towards the hallway's end. The door, the one she disappeared behind last night. It looked the same in daylight: warped wood, rusted handle. But now in the morning hush it felt different. It felt like the entrance to a crypt, looming and cold. Before I could think about opening that door, I moved towards the kitchen instead. Sam's voice broke the silence before I reached it. "Morning." I startled but masked it quickly, turning to find him standing near the fireplace, coaxing the flames. He was already dressed, the sleeves of his sweater pushed to his elbows, exposing forearms lined with faint pale scars. He didn't seem to notice me staring. "Morning," I said, forcing the word past my lips. His eyes flicked towards me and something unreadable passed behind them. "Clothes fit okay?" I nodded, even though the sweater felt a size too big, the pants slightly stiff like they hadn't been worn in years. "Yeah, thanks." Sam gave a small, satisfied nod. "Good." He straightened, stretching his shoulders before moving toward the kitchen. "Coffee?" I hesitated. "Sure." It was strange, this quiet normalcy, like a scene playing out from a life that wasn't mine. He poured a cup and slid it across the counter, the ceramic scraping against the wood. I wrapped my hands around it, letting the heat sink into my skin. "Carrie still asleep?" I asked. Sam stirred his own coffee, watching the liquid swirl. She was up late. I thought of the plate on the counter, the door at the end of the hall, the way she had slipped inside so quickly, so quietly. I let my gaze drift around the cabin. The front door was locked. 2 deadbolts, one at the top and one at the bottom. A row of hooks near the entrance held coats, all neutral in colour. The windows were small, the glass fogged over from the cold outside. My stomach nodded. It was warm, safe, but it didn't feel like home. Sam took a slow sip of coffee. "Feeling all right?" I forced a small smile. "Yeah, just tired." He nodded like he expected that answer. "You should rest today. Take it easy." I lifted the cup to my lips, letting the warmth burn down my throat. What's your plan for today? Sam leans against the counter, arms crossing loosely over his chest. Nothing much. Storm's still heavy, so we're stuck here for now. Roads are useless. Can't get down the mountain a lick. I nodded like that made sense, like I wasn't already wondering when the roads would clear, when I'd be able to leave. Do you need help with anything? I asked. Sam studied me for a moment before shaking his head. Just make yourself at home. I nodded and sipped my coffee again, letting the steam kiss my face. There was no reason not to trust him. No reason to doubt his intentions. No reason at all. By mid-afternoon, the wind outside had eased into a low, steady howl. Snow battered against the windows in thick, swirling flurries, and the sky remained a dull, oppressive grey. I'd spent the morning pretending to settle in, drinking coffee, staring out at the frozen wilderness, answering Sam's occasional small talk with quiet nods. But every second my mind had been elsewhere. On Carrie, on the locked doors, on the way Sam spoke to me. Carrie emerged from the hallway around noon, her small frame wrapped in an oversized sweater, dark hair pulled into a low braid. She moved carefully, like she was trying not to take up too much space. Sam barely looked up from the fireplace. You slept late? Carrie gave a hesitant smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Was up late. I watched the exchange closely. Her voice was quiet and small. Sam exhaled through his nose, tossing another log onto the fire. Get lunch started. She hasn't ate all day. Carrie nodded quickly, stepping into the kitchen without another word. I glanced at Sam. He was focused on the flames, lost in thought. Now was my chance. I set my empty cup down and followed Carrie into the kitchen. She was already at work, moving between cabinets, pulling out bread, canned soup, a small cutting board. I hovered near the counter, pretending to be interested in what she was doing. You need help? I asked. Carrie shook her head. I got it. I hesitated before lowering my voice. You were up late last night. Her hands froze for a half second. Not long enough to be obvious, but I saw it. She kept her eyes on the cutting board. Yes, and keeps being brought up. I waited for her to elaborate, but she didn't. You brought food to that room. My words came out carefully, watching for her reaction. She tensed just slightly. Then quickly she recovered. Sam has a workshop in there, she said, building and preparing supplies. I brought him a snack. She was sharp and answered quick. I leaned in slightly. Carrie? She finally looked at me, and for the first time since I woke up here, I saw something crack in her expression. Fear. Her eyes flickered toward the main room where Sam was still tending to the fire. Then so low that I barely heard it, she muttered, Don't. A chill ran through me. Before I could respond, Sam's voice cut through the room. Something wrong? He turned quickly. He was watching us. Not openly suspicious, but aware. Carrie shook her head, already back to slicing bread. Just talking about what I'm making. Sam's gaze lingered for a second before he turned back to the fire. I exhaled slowly, forcing my hands to stay steady. Don't? Don't what? After lunch, I tried something small. Mind if I step outside for some air? Sam looked up from his spot near the fire. His expression didn't change, but something about his posture did. It's too cold, he said simply. Storm's still bad. Cold will shock your nerves, not good for the leg. I nodded. An hour later, I walked toward the front door as casually as possible, just stretching my legs, just looking around. My fingers brushed the handle. It didn't budge. It was locked. I turned slightly, glancing towards the window, small, thick, pained. If I pressed my hand against the glass, I wasn't even sure my own palm would show through. I swallowed, stepping back before Sam could notice. That night I waited. I stayed in my room, listening to the crackle of the fire and thumbing around the trinkets and books in the room. Eventually the cabin grew still. I gave it another hour, maybe two. Then as silently as I could, I slipped out of bed. The floor was cold beneath my socks. I hobbled slowly, keeping close to the wall as I eased my way down the hall. Every step sent my pulse higher and my breath tighter. Carrie's door was closed, so was Sam's. I reached the end of the hall. The old warped door stood in front of me, the handle rough under my hand. I turned it slowly. It didn't move. Locked, of course. I was about to turn away when I heard something. a noise from the other side of the door, a faint shuffling movement. I held my breath, pressed my ear closer, and then a whisper, so weak, so soft, I almost thought I imagined it. Please. The blood in my veins turned to ice. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. My breath caught in my throat, and for a second I couldn't move. Pain shot through my leg as I realised I steadied myself on my injury. Someone was in there. I turned sharply, hurrying back to my room, every nerve in my body screaming. I had to act normal. I had to pretend I hadn't heard anything. I reached my door and froze. Sam was standing in the hallway, watching me. The dim light from the fire flickered against his mask, casting long, sharp shadows over his face. He didn't say anything. He didn't move. For a long, suffocating moment, we just stood there. Then he finally, his head tilted slightly. You shouldn't wander at night. The words were soft, calm, a warning. My hands clenched at my sides. I just needed water. His gaze didn't waver. Then after a beat, he nodded toward the kitchen. Then get some. You could trip on something and hurt your leg more with it being so dark. I forced myself to move, to walk past him like I wasn't shaking. I poured a glass, my hands steady only because I willed them to be. When I turned back, he was gone. I swallowed hard and went to my room, closing the door behind me. I didn't sleep, because now I knew one thing for sure. It wasn't just me, Carrie and Sam stuck in this cabin. Oh my goodness. Now, I promised myself I was only going to read 4 chapters. But I can't. I have to keep going. There's more than 10. I saw at least 11 chapters in this here. There's no way I'm going to be able to read them all tonight, but I think I've got one more in me. Anyway, guys, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and hit that little bell. I'm just realising you can all now see my jammies. Yeah, this is how we roll. We get ready from this just from here up. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bye bye.